So I'm out here attempting to get my first bird breath shots of the season. I've been coming out here regularly, some mornings and evenings, spotting new species. There's a lot of geese and mallards and some buffleheads, some shovelers, a lot of coots. And last night we came for a walk and we saw the first red-winged blackbird. So I thought perhaps this morning, coots are sure noisy. I thought this morning maybe more would have come in overnight, but so far I think I saw one at a distance, maybe heard one. That's about it. It's kind of bereft of red-winged blackbirds right now. Lots of geese and things, but that's it. Would have been a perfect morning. It's pretty much dead calm, just below zero here. Perfect bird breath morning. So maybe I'm going to hang around and see if anything shows up. There's a northern harrier that works this marsh pretty good. I wouldn't mind getting a shot of. And who knows, maybe some of those red-winged blackbirds will show up here. Once one shows up, usually they flood in. So we'll see what happens. It's April 29th here, south into Charlie Lake in Fort St. John. On May 1st, 2023, I came across a video on YouTube from Simon Donthremote, who's a photographer in Nova Scotia, Canada. If you don't follow Simon, if you're a photographer, outdoor photographer, any kind, he does phenomenal bird, wildlife, landscape, astrophotography, great instructor, one of the best instructors on YouTube. I came across a video on shooting bird breath, and I was kind of taken by that because I knew we had a lot of red-winged blackbirds around. And so I went out, as it turned out, it was the right season. I went out the next day, May 2nd, to try my hand at bird breath pictures. And on my very first attempt, my first morning out, I got these pictures. Got this one about 5:57 a.m. Absolutely fantastic. I was shooting my Sony a6400 with a Tamron 150-500mm lens. And so this bird had to be pretty close. This is actually cropped in about 50% for the picture itself, and I've cropped it in more on the screen here. So it really was, close-ish, but it's only a 200mm lens, which effectively 300 with the crop on the camera. But I was incredibly happy to get this, and I didn't realize just how fortunate I was to get a shot like this on my first time out. I also got that morning this shot, which, yes, that's the way it looked. The color was there, the sun shining through, the water vapor of the breath. Now, this was quite a long ways away. This is also cropped in quite a bit. And if I zoom in here, you can see it's really not a lot of detail. Partly due to lighting, partly due to my camera settings. I was still trying to figure out. I've learned a few things to help fix that. But, as a picture overall, again, for my first morning, my first time out, it's really pretty much unbelievable. Again, I had no idea how fortunate I was at that time. And certainly there are some things wrong with both of my pictures from the first day, some editing issues and other things, but again, just very, very happy with how they turned out. Next year, May 4th, 2024, almost exactly a year later, it was a morning that worked for bird breath. I went out and got this one. This is also cropped in to about 50%. The original would be 6,000 pixels wide. This one's 3,000 pixels wide, so cropped in quite a bit. But again, a pretty decent shot, I thought. And another one I got that day, which is one of my favorites because of the swirl of breath on it here. Got that same morning. And what you quickly learn when you're shooting bird breath, it's pretty easy to get a shot out of a redwing blackbird. And it's a little more difficult. You need the right conditions to get a shot of the bird breath. And then to get the bird breath that has a nice shape to it, that's really the challenge. You quickly realize in bird breath photography that the subject is actually the breath, the water vapor. And when there's no wind, as was the case on this day, you can get some pretty cool swirls. And with a little bit of breeze, you still get some good swirls, but a day like this was absolutely fantastic. Went out again a few days later, and it was not the good conditions, but it was bright and sunny, and got some nice shots like this one here. And when you get out, there's often other things to take pictures of. This goose on a nest box with a goldeneye already taking up residence. Another one scooting across the water, taking off. Again, when you get out, you see stuff. 2025 comes along, and I pick up another lens. I pick up this Tamron 18-300. I had the 28-200, went with the 18-300. I don't know why I never bought this one first. I'm not sure, maybe it wasn't out yet. But I often found with my 28-200, when I was doing landscape out for a hike, I wanted wider than the 28, because with the crop factor, 28 is effectively a 37. This 18 is effectively a 27, so it's pretty nice. And often, obviously with birds and things, the 200, effectively a 300, isn't quite enough, but the 300, effectively a 450, is a big jump. And so in 2025, I ended up getting some pictures like this. This was April 28th, 2025. Again, you can see there's, I think, a jump up in quality. Even though the birds are probably about the same distance as before, a jump up in quality. Still some issues, but progress is being made. Again, just the clarity, the ability to zoom in a little bit more. Get some very cool shots, even if it's not bird breath time. This is still on that first day, the 28th. Pretty happy with that one. Another one, face is a bit messy. He's got some fuzz, and the breath is kind of swirling around. On May 1st, I got this one. His back's turned, but the breath is looking cool. Obviously, there's a slight breeze, so you get the swirl, but it still works okay. Next day, May 2nd. Another shot here, one in the foreground, one in the background. Often you can get multiple blackbirds in the picture when they're very active. Same bird, same basic setup, I believe. Another one in the background. A bit of swirling in the air going on there. Must have been an ideal morning. When you get the swirling like that, it's an ideal morning. Several days later, this would be May 10th. Got this one coming right at me. Must have been on him, and he jumped up and started flying at me. And then on the 15th of May, 2025, I got this one. I think I might have some issues with my white balance here, but I kind of like the look anyway. Back's turned, but a nice stream of breath on my final really good bird breath day of 2025. A lot of these shots were still cropped in quite substantially, so I decided to up my game a little further, and I picked up this Tamron 150-500. I looked at the 200-600 Sony, the Sigma, I think is it 150-500 or something like that, and hummed and hawed and did a bit of research and landed on the Tamron. There was a review that I read that tipped the balance for me, even though the 200-600 is really the goal, the target. They said if you want a lens you'll actually put on your camera and use, go with the Tamron because it's just smaller. It's got an external zoom, so the lens gets longer as you zoom. The Sony's all internal, but that means the Sony is longer, bigger, and heavier right out of the gate. And so this, while it's quite a bit bigger than what I was used to, is not ridiculous. I put on the Peak Design strap. It carries quite nicely. So here's a bit of a summary of this season, which is 2026 as I'm shooting this season's bird breath quest. May 7th was probably the best conditions of the year. It was really the first day that worked out and outstanding. And so you have this one here. You can see again, the quality compared to past years is just a major step up. It's also admittedly quite close. The conditions were perfect. And any shot you see like this, there's probably, from that same chirp, there's probably 10 shots or so as I hold the shutter down, and then probably several chirps from the same spot. So there might be 100 or more pictures of this bird in this spot at that time, and I just picked the one or the two that have the best shape of the breath. Again, the breath itself is the subject, and you can see here there's a little bit of breath drifting over here, but it's on a different focal plane, so it doesn't stand out like this here. The next day was also a pretty decent day, and I got some shots like this one here, and again, pretty happy with this. He's got some scarring or something around his face here. Maybe it might be some fuzz, actually. As you can see, he's been chewing on a bulrush. Another good shot. Again, the quality compared to some of my older ones, a dramatic step up. This one's from May 12th. The lighting's not quite as great. He's not against the proper background. A lot of brightness around, but again, I like the shot. It's got a good bit of breath going on there. And then the 12th, nothing was coming in very close. This is quite a ways away. It's already cropped in. This was cropped in to 3600 pixels wide as opposed to the shooting level of 6000 pixels. So it's already cropped in quite a bit. But still, again, in the grand scheme of things, pretty happy. Went out again on the 17th, and the birds were just far away. The conditions were great, but I stumbled across these hooded mergansers, which are completely out of range even for migration. They're not supposed to be around here. They don't come this way usually. I don't know if I've seen them before. Beautiful birds. Got some great video of them breeding as well. And this is actually a picture of the male just a little later in the day. They hung around for a couple days and then they were gone. So the 17th, that was the last day, it seems, of bird breath season. I'm actually recording this on the 23rd of May. So I think the season is over. Nothing in the forecast looks like it'll be a decent day. And so here's where the year landed. I would say out of the last, so this would be my 4th season attempting bird breath, these were the worst conditions or the hardest conditions. There were no super perfect conditions. There was no day that was 0 or below dead calm with sun. No days like that. It always seemed like there was some little issue, not quite cold enough, not quite sunny enough, a little bit too breezy, but it went okay. I got some pictures and some videos that I would not have gotten without this new lens. And what I found was it was just an excellent opportunity to get used to the lens, to get comfortable with it, all the different settings. I made mistakes regularly, figure them out slowly. And what it does, it kind of equips me and trains me for some of the rest of the shooting that will happen through the summer. I'm actually looking to this summer shooting quite a bit. We do a lot of canoeing. I haven't quite had the courage to take the big lens out in the canoe, typically using the 18-300, but I've already gotten some nice shots from the canoe. In a few weeks, we're heading up the Alaska Highway. We live on the Alaska Highway, and about mile 50-ish or so, and heading up the Alaska Highway probably as far as Whitehorse, Yukon, I think. We've been up partway before, and it is wildlife central. There's no national parks or anything there, but the wildlife is unbelievable. We did a trip partway up there a few years ago, saw pretty much every possible mammal. We saw moose and elk and caribou and mule deer and white-tailed deer and bison. We saw black bears and grizzly and a lynx, and we saw pretty much everything except a cougar. Pretty much every other large mammal and a lot of other small mammals. So that's where we're heading, and I'm looking forward to heading up there with the big lens. A few lessons I've learned about shooting bird breath that probably apply to other forms of photography as well. And I might actually do a more complete how-to video for this kind of photography if people are interested. I've learned to stay in one place, to pick a spot and just stay there, not move around and try to chase them, because they do rotate around. And I have a spot that I just kind of parked in there and stood there. It had good cover and it worked well. I also, you got to dress warm so you're not fidgeting around, so you don't have to move. I started using these work gloves that I got in a big bag from the store, and they're kind of rubbery and they work really well, and I can actually control the camera with them on if I want to. In the winter, I was using them shooting some wax wings on our berry tree here, and I would just stuff some wool gloves inside them and actually could function reasonably well at 20, 25 below for a few minutes anyway. So the gloves really can help. I also realized and discovered through experimenting that having a camouflage coat on makes a massive difference. I was going out with my kind of my red windbreaker jacket, which is very comfortable and warm. I switched to camo and the birds just started coming closer and hanging around more, and it really made a big difference. I've learned to quickly flip between manual focus and autofocus. If there's reeds or things in the way, autofocus just isn't going to cut it, at least not with my camera currently. And so flipping to manual focus will get me some shots that autofocus doesn't. I've learned to check and set the focus range on my lens. The Tamron lens has 3 different focus ranges. It can be from 0 to infinity, or 3 meters to infinity, so it doesn't try to focus on anything closer than 3 meters, or 15 meters to infinity. It doesn't try to focus on anything closer than 15 meters, which makes the autofocus faster. But sometimes I've had it set on, say, 15 to infinity, and a bird lands close, and I just can't get the focus, can't figure out why. And that's why, and I lost some shots because of that. But again, this is the time to learn it, when you can take dozens and dozens and hundreds of shots. And one little tip I learned from Simon D'Entremont was to have a bit of exposure compensation, slight overexposure with the backlighting, so that the bird itself can be lit up. Otherwise, it's just black. Like some of my earlier photos, the bird's just black. You can't see any detail at all. By overexposing, you might blow out the background a little bit, but really haven't had that problem. But the bird is much more clear, much more visible. And that's an excellent tip for shooting birds in general, especially, birds on the water, that kind of thing, just to bring them out, make them a little sharper. And this year I had a lot of what I would call good shots that were still too far. Just had to crop in too much and losing some of the clarity. So there's just a lot of variables. And to get the really nice crisp shots, you realize, as I didn't realize that very first day out several years ago, you realize just how things need to line up to get the very best bird breath shots. And when you get a good one, it's something to be grateful for. Even if it's a bad day for bird breath, you just see a lot by getting out early. During migration season, birds are coming through all the time. You just see things by getting outside. And so it's worth making the try. And so I spent probably, I want to say about 10 mornings out in this last few weeks trying to get shots, and half of those would have been reasonable for bird breath. The others weren't, but I still saw things, got some very, very good shots. Here's some of my favorite shots from the year that aren't bird breath, but they were taken while I was out chasing bird breath, either before or just after, the same day. And as you'll see, again, you get outside, you see stuff. Having most excellent season of photography, whatever season it is for you. Hope to see you again. Thanks for watching. Okay, here we go. It's May 7th, which is my wife's birthday. I decided to let her sleep after 4:30 though, so didn't bring her with me. Beautiful morning. Conditions seem perfect for bird breath. Sounds like there's a lot of blackbirds here. It's calm, it's cold, I can see my breath, and the sky is clear. So this is the best morning we've had conditions wise. I'm very hopeful that today we'll get some good shots and be able to check out the new lens, the new Tamron 150-500 on the bird breath. So here we go. realized this year that with the lens upgrades from the 28 to 200 and then the 18 to 300 now, the 150 to 500, that the lens for me is no longer the bottleneck. That the lens is adequate for the kind of shooting I'm doing. And so that brings me to the logical conclusion that the next step is, of course, a new camera. Isn't that right, dear?